CanJam SoCal 2023. I'm here with Christian, aka CT of NITSCH. Tell us a little bit about this incredible product, and thank you so much for coming on with me, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Very nice
it.
to meet you, Marcello.
Yeah, you too.
This has been amazing. After the lockdown and COVID, it's so great to be out here at CanJam. And actually, I brought an amp to hand off to somebody to be able to review and borrow. But this is great because I'm able to show it to you guys. We just did a small run of this. We brought back an amp. Somebody said it was like Jurassic Park. We brought back an amp that was kind of from the dead that became a cult classic. It was a DIY member from the community that made these after evolving a novel circuit design for about a decade, working on the power supply and working on the amp section. And he made a couple runs. It became a cult classic. And then it was a lot of work to make these, and he was making all of the wood on the amps and so forth. And he finally said, you know what? I kind of want to go back to evolving and making some more circuit designs. I don't want to keep making the same design.
Sure.
A lot of these smart guys like to do that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, hey, the community still wants this amplifier. What if I pick up and try to start making it again, and make production again? And so that's what we did.
Very cool.
So,
it's
thanks.
beautiful. The wood paneling on the side, I mean, it's gorgeous. Tell us a little bit about the overall design philosophy of the amplifier, what makes it different, you know, and yeah, go into more details on it because it's beautiful.
Great, thank you. So yeah, the outside design has some of the details and some of the legacy of Doug's nice design. Doug had a very elegant front panel, not a lot of stuff going on, very clean, very simple aesthetic with nice materials and small touches. But he had really nice wood that wrapped around it. He was a wood maker as well. So each amp that he made was handcrafted. So I wanted to carry on some of that legacy with some beautiful wood panels, but it ended up kind of doing it in my own spin and my own design. I was always inspired by Blackbird Studios in Nashville.
Yeah.
So if you've seen those rooms with all of
sound
the
paneling,
diffusion
paneling, essentially.
Diffusion paneling. And what I love is this is something that's really functional, the diffusion panels, but they were also really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so and I was thinking, because I worked at Massdrop for 3.5 years and designed all of the black boxes, super clean, super sleek, very simple. And I said, well, how do we break up the black box?
Right.
So it's almost like taking acoustic diffusion and making it visual diffusion.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring some of that to the side panels here, so it's actually interesting and hopefully beautiful, and also harkens back to the studios where all of our music is made.
I love that. And you have a beautiful gold logo, like kind of like gold emblem logo on there. I think that's cool.
Yep. So I've got a nice NITSCH logo on there, and the NITSCH logo is also square, so it kind of calls back to the square panels, so it's to kind of tie everything in.
I like how you've matched the volume to that as well, so it's
a little bit of bright work to break it up and make it interesting. So hopefully beautiful, but not too much.
I love it. And even the feet, if you look at the feet, I mean, there's a lot, you can tell you put a lot of thought into the visual aesthetic design. And then on the back, you can see we've got both single-ended and balance.
Right, the original design was balanced only in and balanced only out, but you could use adapters if you wanted to adapt single-ended onto the back. So what we did for this one was, hey, well, why don't we go ahead and put a switch on it and add the extra RCA cables on there. So that's what we did to make it a little bit more functional, a little bit easier, a little more convenient.
I love it. So, and it looks like we already got a couple questions, so that's cool. So it looks like Kevin, wondering how many watts the DSHA-3FN has and what early 2024 means for ordering.
Okay, great, thanks. I appreciate it, guys. So right now I just kicked off making some more of the wood panels. The wood panels are made in the United States by wood craftsmen.
Cool.
And so the first thing I needed to do was make sure I would have wood panels.
Yeah,
so we're working on that here in Q4 of 2023, and then I plan to kick off the new build in Q1 of 2024. And because I have something else that I'm working on that's coming out around November timeline, so please keep an eye out, but it's going to be busy.
Okay, so, cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
And as far as wattage and power,
when
Doug designed this amp, Doug of ECP Audio, he's my partner in this design, and he's the one who came up with the circuit. When Doug designed this, he designed it to try to really work within the operating range of headphones. So it's not the most powerful amp, and it's not designed necessarily to work with every single, even hard to power headphone. But you never know. I always say, you never know until you try
it. Yeah.
So whenever you have a headphone, you don't really know. I never know what the synergy is going to be until I plug it in.
Right.
So one of the things I do when someone brings over a new headphone is I'll fire up all the amps, and then we kind of go to town. And usually, a lot of times, it's myself and another community member, and we're like kids, and we've got the new headphone. I'm like, okay. And we'll fire up all the amps, and then we'll plug in everything,
right.
and we'll go. So what did you think? What did you think? What did you think? And then we go like. Sometimes we have some surprises as to what sounds good and what doesn't.
Yep.
But you kind of, I think, always should try.
Right.
But this one was really designed around the focal headphone or dynamic headphones.
Okay.
So when Doug was tuning this, he said, "Hey, you know what? He had a pair that he was tuning for himself." That's what happens with a lot of these
Sure.
guys.
Yeah,
it's like they're like,
course.
"Hey, the amp that I want doesn't exist yet.
I'm gonna
I
make
have
it."
to make it." And so when he was tuning it to get in the right operating range for a lot of normal dynamic headphones, and also with a bit of output impedance that would sound really good with a lot of dynamic headphones. It ends up sounding great with ZMFs and focals, and actually I've got some customers that love it with even the HD 580, so you never know. You just go ahead and try. But the power isn't super high. There's a little bit of voltage gain when it comes from the input transformers, but then it's really like a really strong super current buffer system that's controlling the drivers and fully differential on the output, which I can go into maybe a little more detail a little later. But the power is only about 1.4x, so 1.6x. It's not super high, so it's not a super high wattage amp. It's designed to work within normal kind of listening conditions and to give you enough power for that. So sorry, it's not super high.
It's not going to drive us this far.
But it's got an incredible Class A, which Doug calls very deep, super deep Class A regulated power supply. So you will feel this get warm, but you can hold your hand on it. You're not going to fry an egg, and you're not going to hurt anybody on it. But you'll know it's running, and it gets warm because it's a very highly regulated Class A power supply with a choke in it. So,
awesome. Yeah. And then another question. Any plans for an upgraded version of the Piety with additional power for harder to drive headphones?
I'm on the spot. I wasn't planning on breaking any news this weekend, but no, it's okay. I'll just say that please keep an eye out for maybe something a little bit later this year, and I appreciate the question.
Kevin, how are you finding out stuff, Kevin? Sorry, my bad. I didn't know.
That's totally
I didn't know that was. I didn't even know, so I didn't even know about it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have read that on the air.
Yeah, that's okay. Just maybe keep an eye out, and hopefully I'm very busy a little later this year.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much for asking.
So tell us a little bit about, so you said you wanted to go into a little bit more detail about the differential output a little bit. So.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and I think it's interesting for a couple reasons. So this is not a typical solid-state amplifier. So a lot of amplifiers use transistors, or they use tubes for gain, and there'll be multiple stages, and there's usually a general order of stages for things. So maybe you've got a tube here and a transistor there, and you've got two or three stages. This is a little different, where it's using some of the devices, but it's using transformers for gain, for voltage gain. Sometimes they'll use transformers for converting voltage into current on the output.
Right.
But what Doug decided to do is kind of almost flip everything a little bit backwards.
Yeah, the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what he's using, because he wanted to use some Lundahl transformers that use a special type of material in them. So Lundahl is the only company that uses amorphous cobalt. So it's cobalt, which is already different and interesting.
Right, sure.
And then amorphous, so it's got a certain molecular kind of crystalline structure that lends itself to a particular sound. And so amorphous cobalt transformers are actually on the inputs. So, and they're actually normally used for microphone line inputs.
Okay.
So normally these transformers are used in really high-end studios in preamps for recording music and taking the stuff from the microphone and bringing it into the system and recording your music for you. So this is actually using them to play back your music to you.
Oh, cool.
So the music so the signal comes out, it goes in, because there's input transformers on the input, it actually blocks some of the ground noise, and it decouples some of the source noise that could come in.
Right.
And then it runs fully differential through the amp. So there's plus and minus on both of your drivers. So over here, plus and minus is signal, start and stop, and over here, plus and minus signal, start and stop. And the differential that goes through the amplifier also does some noise canceling of EMF or interference also inside of the amp. So it ends up being a very quiet amp when it comes to noise and some of the types of interference that you can get in other systems.
Right.
And also it's being fed very clean power. So
very cool. Yep. So how would you describe the sound of this amplifier? Like, you know, I haven't got to hear it, so I can't describe it. So, you know, give us a little bit like how, and you know, maybe pick a set of headphones that you love or own that maybe many people may own, so they can have an understanding of maybe what it sounds like with that particular headphone.
Sure. Well, I love it with, I've got FoCal Clears and Utopias, and I love both of those headphones on this. And then recently, I was testing another prototype amp at a friend's house in the local Bay Area who has all the ZMFs.
Oh, cool.
And so first we tested everything with the prototype that I had that we were working on. But then I was like, ooh, we have a little bit more time. Can we play around? Like I brought this in, and then we started plugging it in, and I got blown away with a couple miles. So I still don't know which one, but I'm gonna have to get a ZMF and
great headphones
and bring it to shows too. And
well, I
imagine
it would sound good with some of the Sennheisers too, then, because you know Sennheisers are different sound than ZMF, obviously, but it's high impedance, you know, dynamic. So ZMF's high impedance dynamic. So that would open it up to a lot of other headphones too. Yeah, I do have a local person who's like, I love my HD580s with it. So I'm like, okay, great, excellent. I've got all the Sennheisers and I'm using them a lot. But if I were to describe the sound of the amp to me, it's that it has a high amount of resolution and detail and fine detail. And it's also, to me, very extended with a lot of extension on both ends. And it's also very consistent in how it plays across the entire range. So Doug also made this with nickel input transformers. And when he uses the nickel input transformers, to me, my experience is that it kind of warms up the lower end a little bit. It gives it a little extra warmth, a little extra bloom, but it's not throughout the entire range. Right. So the upper range becomes clear, but with the amorphous cobalt, it's very consistent. It's super extended and super consistent throughout the entire range. And it resolves treble and transient detail to me in a way that's a little bit different. And it's funny because some of the people that purchased the amp, we've been discussing it when we get together and we talk about it. They're like, there's something going on with like the treble detail, the way it almost shimmers or something. Right. And there's a tactile quality that to me gives a lot of information, and it's also resolving, but it's elegant. There's an elegance to it that's a little bit different than some of the other amps that I've heard or that I own. So that's sort of what it does. That's great. That's a great description. Awesome. Yep. So let's see. We don't have any other questions yet. So let me ask you this. So when you are not building amps, what do you do for fun? What kind of stuff are you into? Oh, well, so I think that a lot of us that are into audiophile hobbies, that it's almost like the audiophile hobby is also connected to the photography hobby, is also connected to like motors and you know, vehicles and you know, so I think I've got everything from the same, you know, love cars and motorcycles, love my guitars, I love my amplifiers and all my I live in luxury where I can listen to great sound at home, at the office. I have to have a rig here, a rig there, a backup rig here, so I've got all great sound whenever I want it. And also I'm a soccer dad, and so a lot of soccer games, which luckily is good because a lot of the other family doesn't watch soccer, but I grew up playing soccer. So did I. So I started coaching, and so now like I've had, you know, I get a lot of soccer all the time. That's cool. I snuck it into the family. Yes. Yeah, I did. I'm looking forward to doing that with my daughter too. Okay. So, yeah. Cool. She's about ready to be that age to start. So. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. And it's fun seeing them progress, and grow, and it's something else. So that's cool. Yeah. So I guess those are a lot of my hobbies today. I love it. So, and then so what? I mean, most of us listen to all kinds of types of music, right? I would say, like, you know, we all have pretty eclectic tastes, you know, like of different types of music. But is there certain genres of music or certain artists that you've been gravitating towards a lot to lately? Or
Oh man, I should look at my title because I'll go on these wormholes. One of my favorite things to do. So I listen to a lot of test tracks.
Sure.
So there's a lot of stuff where I want to, is the bass control there? You know, what do the mids sound like? Is the treble really open for detail? Are the transients, you know,
Right.
Do they run a long time? So I've got a lot of tracks that I use to really quickly find out, you know, what's something doing.
Right.
But when it's on my time, when I give myself a night off, I love to go down either bringing out old CDs now. I've been getting the CD players back out.
I still got mine.
Because sometimes I can jump around too much. So I like putting a CD on and then listening to most of the CD or all of the CD.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. And then I'm also getting online and like I'll go down these rabbit holes where like I remember I think of Joni Mitchell, and then I go from Joni Mitchell back to Jaco Pastorius, and then Joni Mitchell did some collaboration jazz album that I didn't know about over here. So I will use a whole evening just running down these rabbit holes.
That sounds like all of us probably.
Yeah, or going back and going, you know, I know I like this band, I know I love those two songs, but, you know, going back into the archive. Or people recommend stuff to me too.
Right.
And so I'll go chase those down. So a lot of times I'm going back to Beck, I'm going back to old rock. I jump around a lot.
Yeah.
So in fact, actually somebody asked me that, and my wife answered to them, oh, he listens to everything. Because I have open back headphones, I'm listening. Sometimes I listen a little louder, and then she's hearing it, and so she's hearing me listen to soundtracks, to rock, to...
I listen to pretty much everything too, except for, I would say I don't listen to much modern country. It's just not, that's probably one genre I'm not.
Sturgill Simpson.
Yeah? Okay,
yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I'll
and
check
also,
Sturgill out.
so one great way to do that is Sturgill Simpson, start off with his cover of Nirvana.
Okay, that'll get me hooked then.
Yeah.
I'm a huge alternative 90s rock fan.
I'll send it to you. And then you go and you're like, oh, this guy's different. He's interesting.
I love that.
And it goes really country. He's got great country roots, but then he's got a real modern spin on things.
Sweet.
And so actually, that's the guy.
Okay.
That's the guy.
Definitely send me it
wormhole.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if you do this too, but like when I listen to CDs, because I unfortunately at one point like took all my CDs and put them in books, right? Like many did. I wish I would have saved all the cases, but I didn't. But so when I go back and I listen to CDs, it's like reliving my younger years because I'm like, oh yeah, and I'll put them on and I'll spin them like.
Remember that time.
It's just and the same thing with some vinyl too. So I mean, it's a lot of fun. CDs and vinyl are still fun.
About the book thing, so I swear, there's one I had like the visor thing for your car.
Yeah.
Where you put the CDs in there.
Yeah.
And I know one of them must have gone missing because I keep grabbing some of my old jewel cases and I open it up.
Where are these?
Yeah, it's missing. So I actually got to make a list now. And someone sent over like posted a link on the community, which is great because I have to rebuild some of my collection. I've got some empty empty jewel cases, so I do want to own them. And then if the internet goes out,
you have something to listen to. Yes, and
that
does happen. I mean, internet goes down. Like I've literally had that happen this last year, and I was like, whoa, I really wanted to listen to my music. I'm like, oh yeah, my CDs, and I bust out my CDs, or I put on a record, you know. But I also found that like just over time, some of those CDs, because some of them I bought like when I was a teenager, you know, and some of them didn't come out so good. They have scratches on them, so I even bought a machine to like rebuff and resurface them.
Nice, okay.
And I brought them back to life. Some of them were unsalvageable, unsalvageable, but the majority of them I brought back to life. So I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this from way back when. So it was
Speaking
fun.
of scratches on the CDs, just to let you guys know, so I bought a couple of Adcom CD players recently, and it'll play a pristine CD well. But when I was putting on slightly scratched or CDs that I burned, it wasn't playing them.
No.
And so sometimes you have to replace the lasers. So just to let you know.
Could be the case.
And so
my CD player is super old too.
But I'm trying to keep things on the road. You know, even though that's digital, I really love about analog stuff is that I'm still using stuff, and I expect to still use stuff for a really long time. You know, I love that certain amplifiers, certain speakers, certain headphones last 30, 40 years. They still have great sound.
Yeah.
It's still hard to beat some of these old classics.
Yes, sometimes the oldies are the best. So you also, not only have you collabed and worked with, you worked with Drop, but you also collab with shit audio as well too. Tell us a
Yes,
little bit
actually,
about
I'm
that.
wearing my shirt over here. Somebody
Yeah, there
asked
you go.
about piety earlier. So the first amplifier that I launched with was actually something that wasn't planned to ever be built. Jason had been working on some prototypes for the Magni 3 about 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know how many years ago is that now. But he made a whole bunch of different prototypes, and he tested some with different employees. Well, a couple prototypes lived on that people would not want to get rid of, and
Sure.
they really loved them, and they hoped that there would always be maybe at least a limited release. The reasons why Jason didn't make the product was he used a lot of parts, it didn't have the highest power, it didn't have the lowest distortion, and some of the parts were going in and out of production. And
makes it
so
hard,
it was
yeah.
like it had just too many strikes against it, but it sounded really good. And so when I was looking at what I was going to do after Mass Drop, and I wanted to continue doing things of bringing new products, bringing some great old,
Sure.
excellent products that needed to continue to be made, and also some stuff that wasn't going to see the light of day. Talked to Jason, and we thought, oh, this might be
Something
a
you
great,
guys
a
can
great
do,
product. And I love that it's $165. It's one of those things that I wish I had when I was starting out, but I
yep.
still enjoy today. I still, have one at home and at my office desk, and we love it. And it's really small, but it packs a really good punch. It sounds
cool.
really good, and it's fun to listen to. So
Very cool.
That was the first collaboration, and then someone was asking about what a follow-up might be, and so
Stay tuned.
we're working
Stay
on it.
tuned on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's see. So we got. Okay, we can ask this question. This is won't release any top secret info. It says,
okay.
If you're still in the Bay Area, why do you think there aren't audio tech shows there, especially considering how many techies are there? That's a
Great
good
question. Great
yeah.
question. So I want to put this out to everybody that we are rebuilding the community in the Bay Area. So way back in 2010, I was looking around, and the Bay Area used to have a ton of great meets, and I saw all the pictures, and I went, oh my gosh, this is so excellent. When's the next meet going to be? Like, that's perfect. I want to see stuff. I want to hear stuff myself. And it's also a lot of fun to hear how people combine equipment and make their own systems. So I was asking around, and they said, those guys all got great equipment, and they're all happy, and they all kind of are on their own friend group, and they kind of left.
Right.
So if you want one, you're going to have to organize one. And I'm like, I've not even ever been to a meet. What do you mean organize one? And so I thought that was crazy, and they said, no, yeah, just go do it. And someone behind the scenes that used to organize meets said, hey, this is what you do. You set a time, you set a place, and then you just tell everybody about it, and they will help you, and they will show up. And I went, okay. And so I set a time and I set a place, told everybody about it, and then I found out that I couldn't get the place. so the very first thing was I blew that. But
You
then,
live and you learn.
Yeah, then we reset it. We set the schedule when I could get the place, and everybody came out of the woodwork, and they did help. And we had great meets for about a few years. And so I organized meets in the Bay Area, and we had up to 150. I think maybe the most was 200. What I also
That's
really
big.
loved
That's
is
really big.
we got some of the different sites and where people congregate online. We got everybody together.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. And we got support from Jude, and we got support from Ultimate Ears, and even Jason came out, and Fong came to the early meets. So what I always say is go for it, try to organize a meet and get it going. But in the Bay Area, we have started again. And right now, there's a great organizer named Vince, and you'll see him online too. He's got a different handle online, so I can't remember that right now. But we are meeting. We just had a meet on January 29th in downtown San Jose, and we also had one last year. Oh, I think we had one just recently in June, and then also in January. So we have started having meets in the Bay Area again. They're not as big as this. You guys got to come down to the SoCal one.
Isn't there an audio show?
Because this is amazing.
Isn't there an audio show though? And I just got a 5-minute warning from one of my team. No, we're cool. We have about 5 minutes left. So get your questions in, guys, if you have any.
Right.
We got about 4 or 5 minutes left. But isn't there? I thought there was an audio show in the Bay Area at the Hilton. I remember seeing something on Facebook, like it was a promoted post. I was like, oh, that that's interesting, and maybe I'll drive down. Because I'm only 3.5-4 hours away from the Bay. I'm up in Reno, so northern Nevada. So I mean, I would come down to some of yours.
Come down and let's see. I'll let you know.
But I thought there was an audio show down there, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not sure.
Like Cal Audio or Cal something, or
it might have been CAS, California
maybe
Audio Show.
I don't know. I don't really remember, but I thought you had at least one good sized one down there.
Sometimes the audio shows in the Bay Area, they'll be more focused on 2-channel.
Maybe that's what it was.
And so what we used to do though is we used to have pretty good meets with locals and community members, and then about a third of the people that were there, vendors, would come out, and so but they didn't have to be huge setups and everything. They could come down and just hang out with us. It was a lot of fun, and members would bring a lot of their rigs and so forth.
That's
so
cool.
We're trying to get that going again right now in the Bay Area. So
good.
Please.
Sounds like you're doing it. Let's see, Tyler. We love you, buddy. Tyler says, I love it.
Tyler. Hey, Tyler.
We love you, bud. Thanks for joining us. And it was great hanging with you yesterday, man. And then it says, you got a compliment from Kevin. It says, for those watching, the Piety is in-game with the LCDX 2021 and FoCal Radiance. It sounds phenomenal with ZMF Icon as well as love your work, CT. I use mine as much as my more expensive gear. Huge compliment. That's awesome.
That's wonderful to hear.
And then also giving you a round of applause. So great stuff and great feedback from the community.
Thanks, everybody. And I am so happy to be out again, and this shows how vibrant and how we were pent up for a couple of years, and we needed to get out, see each other again, see stuff. Yesterday I spent most of the time catching up with everybody like it was just a reunion. So this is
it's always fun. And that's my favorite part about, when people ask what was your favorite thing you heard, I honestly tell people it was actually the conversations I had with people, new people I met, and other people interested in the hobby, because a lot of times I'm just behind a camera from my studio at home or in my studio, business, and I don't get to meet people face to face. It's all through the internet.
Yeah,
so when I get to come here, like they're like, I follow this and I watch this, or hi, my name is, and I get to hear their story and what they like or what they do. To me, that's like the most rewarding thing about CanJam.
And this carries on too. You come here, you get recharged, you meet people, you see them, and then online, you're getting online with your friends again, and so it's just a lot of fun. So I've got a list that I've been carrying around CanJam, but half of it I haven't even hit yet. So we'll see how much I get through. But the main thing is,
have fun,
I love that there's a lot of new stuff out here that I haven't heard yet. So I'm catching up, and it's been a lot of fun. Perfect.
Well, we're about out of time. So what we'll do is we'll probably wrap here in a minute or so. So remember, everybody, I'm going to be posting video links for live streams all day long. We probably have about 4 or 5 more we're going to do today. So, and then we'll have to cut it in the afternoon because I have to go to a panel for CanJam that I'm going to be on. People are going to be asking questions, I guess. So stay tuned here and let your friends know. If they can't make it to CanJam, we're going to be sharing as much information about what's going on here. So join us and share this video, like, comment, hang out with us, and we appreciate you watching and appreciate you for coming on with me, man. Thank you, Christian.
And thanks to anybody who watched this. I appreciate it. And, I hope I get to see you guys at a next meet.
Perfect. Sounds good. And with that, thank you guys. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you very soon on the next stream. Take care.
Thanks.